In this video we are going to make a margarita pizza, and I am going to show you how to make the dough as well as the tomato sauce that's going to go onto the base. I've got a piece of garlic that I've already peeled. Now I'm going to chop a piece of onion. I am going to cut off the end where the leaves would have been, and then I'm just going to peel off the skin on the outside. I am going to use my claw technique, and I am going to cut across. There I'm using my bridge just to make sure I don't cut my fingers. We do not have to cut it that finely because we are going to use the hand blender to make a smooth sauce. Okay, so I've got my onion, and then I'm going to chop my garlic. Okay, so my onions and my garlic. I've got 8 tablespoons of tin tomatoes, and then I've got some mixed herbs, or you can use oregano. Here I've got my saucepan. I am going to add my onions and my garlic to my hot oil. You can hear it is sizzling. I can smell the garlic already, so I'm going to stir it a little bit. You want to make sure that you do not burn your onions, so you mustn't have your heat too high. Fry it for about 2 to 3 minutes. Becoming a bit translucent, that's fine. I'm going to add my tomatoes. Want to add some mixed herbs, about a teaspoon. And then you're going to leave that to come to a simmer. You need to keep an eye on it because you do not want it to burn. You need to give it the occasional stir. When it comes to a simmer and it starts bubbling, then turn it down to about 3. So this sauce is going to simmer whilst I am going to make the dough. So for my pizza, I am going to need some flour in my bowl. I am going to add some salt on one end of the bowl, and then I'm going to add my yeast on the other side. We do not want the yeast to touch the salt or the salt to touch the yeast, because salt affects how well yeast works. Just stir it through. Then you're going to add a tablespoon of olive oil. Stir it through. Bit messy. And now I'm going to add warm water. The water needs to be warm to activate the yeast. I have weighed it, it's 120 grams. You want to add all of it at once. Instead of measuring, we are weighing because it's more accurate. So I'm just using a little spatula. You can use a butter knife, and we stir our dough, and then I'm going to get my hands in there and start kneading it. So you want to bring it all together in your bowl. Don't be tempted to add more water. You need to work it through. If it's really too dry, you can maybe add a drop of water, but you would see you really need to get your hands in there and manipulate the dough and then all the water will be absorbed and I end up with a nice soft dough. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to knead my dough until it becomes soft and elastic. So the moment I add water to flour and I start kneading it or manipulating it, I develop gluten, and gluten helps to keep the structure of my bread. It's almost like scaffolding. It holds up the shape and it prevents my bread from falling down or my pizza base to become too flat. You're going to keep on kneading for about 5 minutes. You want it to become really soft and elastic. Also make sure that you keep an eye on your tomato sauce. So I'm just going to, for a minute, move the camera over there. I'm going to give it a stir. You do not want it to become too dry. Okay? Give it a little bit of a stir. Going to carry on kneading our dough. By the time our dough is finished, we will be ready with our sauce. Right, I am happy with that. I am going to just leave my dough in a bowl for a little bit whilst I am going to finish off the sauce. So that I'm going to put to one side, and we are going to finish off the sauce. And I'm going to tip the sauce into that measuring jug. Be very careful not to burn yourself. I'm going to scrape everything out. So everything is in there. And then I am going to use my hand blender and I'm going to blend until I've got a smooth sauce. Our pizza. So I'm making a margherita, but you obviously have to add more vegetables because this needs to adhere to the Eat Well guide. So you need to make sure that you include all the food groups on here. And I roll it in a circle. You need to want some flour on your table, otherwise it will stick. Try and get it as round as possible. Dough is elastic, so you can stretch it in the direction you want it to go. Trick is to turn it continuously. Some of us likes a thicker crust, some thinner. It really depends on what you would like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it onto my baking tray and I'm going to assemble my pizza. First of all, I am going to put some of my homemade tomato sauce on there. Spread it evenly. You don't want to have too much on it because then it can be soggy, but you want to cover it and you want to make sure that when you put your cheese on that you cover the edges. So this is my margherita. If you've got other toppings, you can put some cheese at the bottom and cheese at the top. I usually put my cheese just on the top, but now you would put all your toppings on here. I am only going to put on some mozzarella and some basil. So I've got my sauce on there. Now I'm going to add my basil leaves and then my mozzarella that I have sliced. Like I've said, if you've got other toppings, you can now add those as well. Okay, and I've got my sliced mozzarella. If you've got grated mozzarella, you can use that as well. Right, there your pizza is ready to go into the oven.